which is supposed to be a synonym for denial, and it's really the first reaction a lot of people have to trauma. I'm going to read something that's in the acceptance section. It's actually the last piece in the book, and I think that it has a different view of a disabled child that she spoke to, that you have later on in dealing with the diagnosis or the reality. Mobility by Gabriella, Burman. Recently I sold my car, the trusty Honda Odyssey minivan I thought was needed because of a plan to have 3 children, whose limbs would grow gangly, an assortment of backpacks thrown on the floor. I swore I'd drive the car until nothing but nubs were left. In 2007, we bought the car used from someone my husband, Adam, knew at work. The owner meticulously recorded in black ink the mileage of every service visit. The vehicle handled surprisingly well for its size, crucial to a Generation Xer like me, who swore she never owned a minivan. And more importantly, it fit our special needs family well. On long trips, the cargo space accommodated Michaela's strollers, stander, and adaptive bicycle. And it was physically easier to situate her in the captain's seat, in the second row of the minivan, than it would have been to bend over a sedan and station wagon sitting lower to the ground. Plus, the electric sliding doors on the van were easy to open with the touch of a button while I balanced Michaela on one of my hips. Michaela was 3 and our second daughter, Elliot, was about 6 months old when we bought the car. Nevertheless, the car would always be known as the Michaela Mobile. And I put hundreds of miles on the car per week, chauffeuring Michaela to school and therapy appointments and home again. The van held so many secrets. Michaela often choked on saliva that had collected in the back of her throat, which she hadn't swallowed due to poor oral motor coordination. More than once I had to twist in the driver's seat while going 70 miles per hour and slap her hard on the leg to make her cry and start breathing again. The car was where she first heard Rossini's William Tell Overture. In the car, her eyes lit up as we passed through lighted tunnels on the highway. Hers was the best seat in the house at the automatic car wash. After picking her up from school and looking through the daily notes her teacher sent home, I'd ask her about her day. She answered me in sounds and squeals. Her smile deterred the need for headlights on wintry afternoons. The car was where our normal lived. When we first bought the Honda, I resisted placing a handicap license plate on the backside. I balked at the right to park close to a store because my daughter couldn't walk. Michaela's challenge would be stepping her way, supported by my arms, to the front door from wherever she was. When Michaela neared age 5 and weighed 40 pounds, I backed down. A fellow mother at the Center for Physical Therapy, where Michaela spent many, many hours, told me to take the long view. Your back is fine now, but you wanted to stay that way, she said. The advice was sound and truthfully adjusted easily. After all, I was devoted to yoga to keep my spine strong and straight so I could remain able-bodied for Michaela. The next day, I applied for the license plate, and its arrival in the mail proved a turning point. The metal rectangle in my hand depicted a seated figurine, a raised blue curve like a wave in the ocean, next to the letters that marked the car as mine. I realized then I was embracing Michaela as she was, and the plate evolved into another symbol of what a family looks like as I pulled out of my garage onto the street and onto Michigan's freeways. When the car began to experience a few electrical problems, such as when the handy sliding doors stopped working, we pushed off the decision to sell it. Then, in May 2009, at age 5.5, Michaela died suddenly and unexpectedly in her sleep. It was just 12 days after our third daughter, Mayan, was born. The car remained, like everything else, a shell of what had been. Our attachment to the car grew in inverse proportion to Michaela's absence. But 2 years later, the radio stopped working, in my mind, appropriately so. Also, the AC compressor had a heart attack, according to the mechanic who wanted $1,500 to replace it, just in time for the summer. I prayed for a cool season. The children sweated against the fabric. Adam and I wrestled with the decision to sell. A well-meaning friend retorted, "You aren't that attached to material things, are you?" This friend didn't, or chose not to, see the slippery slope ahead. If I could part with a car that held so many memories, what would be next? Her feeding chair? Her eyeglasses? Should I get rid of those too? How else would my children know their sister, if not through the props that tell the story of her life? Finally, when we decided to sell the car, I had to proceed quickly like an unthinking teenager. I dropped the car off in Dearborn, in a used car lot parked with other cast-offs, across the street from a fast food Middle Eastern restaurant and a gas station that sold ice cream. The dealer offered me cash on the spot, far less than I would have earned privately. But since the CD player, having been stuffed with corners by Mayan, was kaput, and the AC had also expired, I accepted less. Standing on the asphalt in the heat, I longed to tell the dealer, "Sell it to a special needs family if you can, please." I took a last picture of the car with Alit and Mayan in the front seats pretending to drive. Adam had arrived to take us home. When we turned to leave, I longed to press my cheek against the rear window and kiss the car goodbye. Later, that same evening, I shattered the side view mirror of my brand new Honda Odyssey while passing a parked car on the street where I live. Dangling from its base in a million tiny shards, the mirror looked like me. I had grown accustomed to driving the new minivan, with all its bells and whistles. I used it to carpool my 2 surviving children. I called the car the cockpit because the leather interior resembles the inside of a sleek celebrity jet. The dashboard controls gleam with possibilities I may never unearth. Mayan, now 2, sits in Michaela's old car seat, and the same spot where I can look over my shoulder and see my beloved firstborn child. The back of the car, with its empty third row, follows along heavily, like an elephant aimlessly swaying its hips. I think that I'm going to end with just briefly reading my suggestion of how to read the book.